In the autumn of 1983, the quiet suburb of Grantville was unsettled by an event so inexplicable, so jarringly out of character, it fractured the town's sense of security forever. 5 cheerleaders from Grant High had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only pompoms scattered carelessly across the damp grass and locker doors swinging slowly in the evening breeze. An entire community reeled beneath the weight of unanswered questions. Whispers began immediately, fears blooming beneath polite facades. Detective Sarah Mills stood at the edge of the empty football stadium twilight, stretching shadows across faded bleachers. She took a deep, steadying breath. She had arrived to find chaos parents, hysterical teachers whispering urgently, police lights bathing frightened faces in hues of red and blue. Now silence. The scent of damp earth and freshly cut grass hung in the air, a stark contrast to the sense of foreboding that tightened her chest. Sarah's gaze moved methodically across the scene, discarded pom-poms glinting faintly in the fading sunlight. Their cheerful colors suddenly grotesque. The locker room doors swung gently, each metallic creak cutting through the silence. She moved closer, footsteps heavy against the concrete path, senses sharpened by the eerie quiet. Peering inside, she saw gym bags, abandoned haphazardly, textbooks strewn on benches. Lockers stood half-open, belongings spilling onto tiled floors as if their owners had simply evaporated. She paused, noticing a small, glittering object beneath a bench. Kneeling down, Sarah picked up a delicate silver charm shaped like a megaphone. Turning it over, she saw engraved initials AC. The letters, elegant yet childlike, sparking a faint curiosity that prickled at her nerves. "Detective Mills," a voice interrupted gently. Sarah rose quickly, pocketing the charm. Coach Ben Palmer stood at the doorway, hands nervously clutching his distinctive silver whistle. He looked, pale eyes darting toward the scattered belongings. "I didn't see anything," he murmured, throat-tight voice barely above a whisper. "One moment they were here laughing, packing up after practice, then gone." Sarah studied his face carefully, the silver whistle glinting softly in his palm. Something about its shine, the careful way he held it, unsettled her. But for now, it was simply another detail, another piece of a puzzle whose picture remained frustratingly unclear. Night settled heavily around them, and Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the fading warmth of the sun. The true horror of what had happened hadn't yet revealed itself, lurking unseen in the shadows, waiting patiently to emerge. Sarah Mills sat across from Coach Ben Palmer in a small windowless room of the Grantville police station, the pale fluorescence of overhead lights casting his face in stark relief. His silver whistle lay silent on the table, catching the harsh light, a mute witness to their conversation. Sarah noted its unique engraving, a tiny falcon, Grant High's emblem, precisely etched on its polished surface. "You coached these girls for 2 years, Ben." Sarah began, her voice deliberately calm, eyes observing every twitch and hesitation. "Tell me about them." Ben swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously. "They were talented, dedicated," he murmured, his fingers twitching involuntarily toward the whistle. "But also just regular teenagers. Happy, carefree." Sarah leaned forward, slightly, eyes narrowing. "Any conflicts? Problems at practice, disagreements?" Ben hesitated. His eyes flickered briefly downward, betraying a momentary panic. "No, nothing unusual, just typical high school drama. Nothing that would explain this." Sarah paused, studying the coach intently. His reputation had already reached her ears, rumors passed in whispers, cautiously voiced accusations about inappropriate glances, lingering touches, and uncomfortable comments during practice sessions. But rumors were whispers in the dark shadows that shifted shape easily, hard to grasp and even harder to prove. She tapped the whistle gently. "Why do you carry this whistle everywhere, Ben, even now?" He glanced down, startled, as if noticing it for the first time. "Habit, I suppose," he muttered quietly. "Been carrying it since I started coaching. It's part of me." Sarah registered the faint tremor in his voice, the bead of sweat forming near his temple. "I've heard whispers about your conduct," she said bluntly, her voice even. "Rumors of behavior that crosses lines." His eyes widened slightly, mouth falling open in shock, or perhaps feigned innocence. That's just talk," he stammered quickly. "Kids gossip, but I swear I never—" Sarah raised her hand, gently cutting off his protests. "Where were you tonight just after practice ended?" He hesitated again, eyes darting nervously. "In my office, grading some papers. I heard nothing until the screaming started." She made a careful note, her pen scratching softly against the paper. Sarah's gaze returned to the whistle, its metallic gleam almost hypnotic. A faint scent of Ben's aftershave, musky and slightly cloying, wafted across the table, making her skin prickle with unease. "You're free to go for now," she said finally, standing up slowly, her movements deliberate. Ben rose shakily, snatching the whistle and clutching it tightly, a talisman of anxiety and protection. Sarah watched as he exited, noticing how quickly his shoulders slumped once outside the interrogation room. She let out a slow breath, her thoughts tangled with suspicion. Perhaps the whispers held more truth than she'd first imagined. Late that evening, Sarah Mills walked the quiet halls of Grant High, the empty corridors echoing with the faint hum of distant generators. Her footsteps clicked against the polished linoleum, each sharp tap amplified by the hollow silence surrounding her. She moved methodically, retracing the cheerleaders' path from the locker room, searching for overlooked clues that darkness often concealed. At the end of the hall stood the janitor's storage closet, its battered door half open, revealing shelves stacked high with cleaning chemicals. A strong scent, harsh and medicinal, drifted outward, burning her nose. Sarah paused, drawing closer, pushing the door open wider. Inside the closet was cramped and dimly lit, the yellow glow from a single bulb casting distorted shadows across the walls. Janitor Stan Cooper emerged from the shadows behind her, startlingly silent, despite his size. Sarah spun around sharply, heart skipping a beat, her hand instinctively tightening around the flashlight she carried. "Looking for something, Detective?" Stan's voice was low, gravelly, tinged with annoyance. His eyes held a hard glint, suspicion etched deep into the lines of his weathered face. "Routine investigation," Sarah responded calmly, forcing her voice steady. "You've worked here a long time, Stan. Ever notice anything unusual around the locker rooms?" Stan scoffed, his expression souring. "Every day something unusual happens around here. Kids breaking locks, sneaking around. Nobody ever bothers telling me anything, though." His tone dripped bitterness, resentment simmering beneath a practiced indifference. Sarah took note, her eyes drifting over shelves of bleach, ammonia, and industrial solvents. "What were you doing after practice today?" Stan leaned heavily against the doorframe, arms crossed defensively. "Cleaning the cafeteria. Same as every evening. Ask the kitchen staff, they love to complain about my timing." Sarah nodded slowly, sensing hostility carefully masked by routine complaints. "And when did you first notice something was wrong?" His eyes narrowed, slightly, voice dipping lower. "When the screaming started. Came running out to see all those people panicking, police lights flashing. Chaos." Sarah considered him closely, noting how his hands clenched and unclenched, nervous energy betrayed by subtle tension. "Anyone you've noticed paying particular attention to the cheerleaders?" Stan hesitated briefly, glancing away. "Coach Ben watches them pretty closely," he muttered darkly. "And some of the girls, they get jealous. Petty teenage stuff, but you never know." He shifted slightly, eyes flickering towards a shadowed corner of the closet where an empty hook swung slightly, just noticeable enough to catch Sarah's attention. "Something missing?" she asked. Stan's jaw tightened. "Lost my spare keys this afternoon. Probably some kid playing a prank." Sarah's eyes lingered on the empty hook. Missing keys. Stan's simmering anger, the harsh smell of chemicals saturating the cramped space, all details filing themselves away carefully in her mind, forming a tapestry of suspicion. She turned slowly, stepping back into the hallway, aware of Stan's piercing gaze burning between her shoulder blades as she walked away. Despite her efforts to remain detached, a nagging unease followed her, whispering softly of secrets hidden deep within shadowed halls. The next morning, Sarah Mills found herself seated in a quiet corner of Grant High's library, sunlight filtering through dusty windows, casting faded rectangles across worn carpeting. Opposite her sat Amanda Collins, a cheerleader who had recently been sidelined due to an injury Sarah suspected ran deeper than physical pain. Amanda fidgeted nervously, twisting a slender bracelet around her wrist. A bracelet with a tiny charm, identical to the one Sarah had discovered beneath the locker room bench, engraved neatly with the letters AC. Sarah's eyes lingered on it briefly, a whisper of suspicion creeping into her thoughts. "Tell me about your teammates, Amanda," Sarah prompted gently. "Was there ever tension between you and the other girls?" Amanda shifted uneasily, eyes darting toward the window, evading Sarah's steady gaze. "We all got along fine," she mumbled, her voice quiet, uncertain. Sarah leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice, injecting a calculated empathy. "It must have been hard watching from the sidelines, feeling left out." Amanda's eyes flashed briefly with unguarded resentment, quickly masked by a forced neutrality. "I got used to it," she replied bitterly, fingers tightening around her bracelet. "Injuries happen, nothing anyone could have done." Sarah noted the brittle undertone, the suppressed hurt bubbling just beneath the surface. "Were any of the girls particularly close with Coach Ben or Stan?" Amanda shrugged, feigning indifference, though Sarah noticed a faint tremor in her shoulders. "Coach Ben spent extra time helping Ashley and Jessica, our best flyers. Stan, he didn't like anyone much, but he really hated Coach Ben." "Why do you say that?" Amanda hesitated, biting her lower lip nervously. "Stan accused Coach Ben of leaving a mess in the locker rooms, disrespecting his work. They argued a lot. Stan was angry about everything." Sarah quietly absorbed Amanda's words, letting silence stretch uncomfortably. Amanda's eyes fell to the bracelet again, fingers tracing the engraved letters absent-mindedly. "I noticed your bracelet," Sarah said softly, gesturing toward Amanda's wrist. "Did you lose one recently?" Amanda's expression flickered brief panic confusion before settling back into careful neutrality. "No. Why?" Sarah shook her head dismissively, sensing Amanda retreating inward, carefully hiding truths behind a curtain of polite distance. "Just found something similar. Thought it might belong to you." Amanda's posture stiffened, eyes widening slightly. "Maybe one of the other girls. We all had them." "All?" Amanda hesitated, voice lowering conspiratorially. "I gave matching ones to my closest friends Jessica, Ashley, Lauren, and Amy. Amy Carter. She and I were tight." Sarah noted the faint shift in Amanda's tone when mentioning Amy, the slight hesitation, the quiet fracture beneath the surface of friendship. She carefully concealed her curiosity, offering a reassuring nod instead. "Thank you, Amanda." As Amanda stood, Sarah watched her leave, her gait uneven from the lingering injury. Alone now, Sarah replayed the conversation, the clues weaving tighter, a bracelet shared among friends, subtle hints of jealousy, bitterness concealed behind forced smiles. Yet a name echoed quietly in her mind, Amy Carter, resonating softly like a distant bell ringing faintly but insistently, a detail Sarah instinctively sensed she should not overlook. 5 years passed quietly, yet Grantville never fully recovered. Sarah Mills, now promoted but haunted by the unresolved disappearance, carried those unanswered questions with her, daily memories stubbornly surfacing when least expected. Yet, as often happens, secrets rarely stay buried forever. A late afternoon call brought Sarah back to Grant High's stadium, now faded and seldom used. Groundskeeper Carl Lewis had made a startling discovery while repairing a leaking sprinkler line beneath the bleachers. She arrived to find Carl standing nervously near a freshly unearthed tunnel entrance, the dark mouth of it gaping open like an infected wound in the earth. Carl gestured silently downward. Sarah peered into the narrow passage, musty air wafting upward, tinged with earth and mildew. Clicking on her flashlight, she descended cautiously, each step echoing softly against the concrete walls. The air grew colder, more oppressive as she moved deeper into shadows long undisturbed. At the tunnel's end, she found a small chamber dimly illuminated by her flashlight's beam. Her heart quickened. Along the chamber's wall, she saw cheerleading uniforms, dirty, torn, ominously silent, carefully folded and stacked in a neat pile. Sarah moved closer, noting the faded colors, recognizing immediately Grant High's familiar falcon emblem embroidered on the fabric. A pungent smell rose sharply, familiar chemicals prickling her senses, unmistakably matching Stan's cleaning supplies. A small silver object lay atop the uniforms, a whistle engraved with the tiny falcon logo. Sarah's pulse quickened with recognition, Coach Ben's whistle distinct, undeniable. But something else caught her eye, a slender bracelet partially hidden beneath the fabric. Kneeling, Sarah lifted it delicately, her fingertips brushing dirt from the engraved charm. Again, the same elegant engraving, AC. She stood slowly, breathing shallowly, trying to steady herself amidst swirling suspicions. Stan's cleaning chemicals, Ben's whistle, both details solidly implicating the men she'd suspected years before. Yet the bracelet, unmistakably linked to Amanda and her tight-knit circle, tugged stubbornly at her instincts. Climbing slowly back to daylight, Sarah found Carl waiting anxiously, shifting from foot to foot. "Did you see?" Sarah nodded grimly. "How long have you been groundskeeper here, Carl?" He swallowed nervously. "About 8 years now. Never knew that tunnel existed, honest. Found it by accident, pure luck, or bad luck?" Sarah watched him closely, sensing genuine confusion beneath his anxious demeanor. Carl had stumbled innocently into something dark, inadvertently reopening wounds the town had tried desperately to forget. She quietly dismissed him, confident he was merely an unwitting pawn, not a player. Alone, Sarah gazed again into the tunnel's dark mouth. Its shadows, beckoning secrets, calling to her, long buried and now painfully resurfacing. Somewhere within this twisted puzzle lay the truth, patiently waiting, hidden beneath years of suspicion, doubt, and quiet betrayal. And one name echoed softly again in her mind: Amy Carter. A faint whisper, relentless and inescapable, challenging her to look closer, deeper into the quiet spaces she'd previously overlooked. Days later, Sarah stood alone in the quiet evidence room, surrounded by sterile walls lined with neatly labeled shelves. Before her lay the cheerleaders' uniforms, now methodically spread across a stainless steel examination table. Each garment, once vibrant with school spirit, now carried stains and marks telling stories of unanswered horror. She leaned forward, carefully examining the fabric. A subtle scent rose gently as she moved, a familiar fragrance, sweet and floral. Her heart tightened with immediate recognition, the same perfume Amanda Collins had worn years earlier. The faint trace lingered stubbornly, embedded deeply within the fibers, stirring uneasy suspicions once again toward the sidelined cheerleader. Sarah's fingers brushed the torn edges of a skirt hem, and a small piece of paper fluttered softly to the floor. She bent, retrieving it carefully. Unfolding the brittle note, Sarah read the faded words written hurriedly in a young girl's hand. "Meet me after practice, Amy." She exhaled slowly, realizing the quiet implications contained within these simple words. Amanda had admitted her closeness with Amy, their friendship symbolized by matching bracelets. This note confirmed their frequent private interactions, secrets passed between trusted confidants. But could friendship mask something darker? Sarah felt the question settle uneasily, refusing to be ignored. Returning to her desk, she opened the old case files again, rereading the original interviews. Coach Ben suspicious, but never proven guilty. Stan bitter and perpetually hostile. Amanda quietly resentful, yet ultimately alibied. Each suspect provided plausible motives, each shadowed by compelling uncertainty. Yet Sarah's thoughts returned inevitably to Amy Carter, quiet, unobtrusive, helpful, never questioned thoroughly, always dismissed as merely a concerned friend. Sarah remembered Amy's earnest, soft-spoken demeanor, her quiet empathy reassuring during earlier interrogations. Why, then, Sarah wondered, did Amy's name keep emerging, persistently resurfacing in subtle details? She pulled Amy's file, examining it carefully. Excellent grades, glowing recommendations, described as responsible, thoughtful, kind-hearted. Sarah frowned slightly, noting the meticulous, almost too perfect nature of Amy's recorded reputation. Something faintly dissonant echoed beneath the polished surface, intangible yet persistent. Sarah's gaze fell on an archived photograph from the yearbook, Amy standing slightly apart. Eyes cast downward, cheerleaders laughing together nearby. The image captured subtle isolation, quiet separation hidden beneath practiced, smiles. Sarah traced Amy's face thoughtfully, noticing the barely perceptible tension in her eyes, the forced, gentle smile, concealing deeper, unspoken emotions. A faint chill danced lightly along Sarah's spine. Innocence was easily portrayed, she realized. Trust easily earned. Yet beneath quiet empathy, envy and resentment could fester silently unnoticed until it became dangerously explosive. She placed the photo back into the file, breathing softly, steadying herself. The threads were beginning to weave together slowly, forming a picture Sarah hesitated to acknowledge fully. But the echoes of innocence, now twisted and shadowed by suspicion, urged her forward, compelling her to confront uncomfortable truths hidden beneath familiar faces. Sarah Mills found Amy Carter seated quietly in the high school auditorium, the dimly lit room casting elongated shadows over empty rows of seats. Amy's slender figure appeared fragile beneath the weight of the past, her posture slightly curved inward as though shielding herself from scrutiny. She turned slowly as Sarah approached, her eyes wide and disarmingly open. "Detective Mills," Amy said softly, voice gentle and composed. "It's been years." Sarah nodded, seating herself carefully beside Amy, maintaining a comfortable distance yet close enough to observe subtle shifts in expression. "I'm sorry to bring all this back, Amy, but we found something beneath the stadium. Hidden uniforms, personal items, things that raise questions." Amy's fingers tightened briefly, knuckles whitening as they gripped the edge of the seat. "Did you find out who did it?" she asked hesitantly, her tone barely above a whisper. Sarah chose her words deliberately, watching Amy closely. "We're still looking, but we discovered some things, items linked to Amanda and to you. Your friendship bracelets." Amy nodded slowly, eyes glistening faintly in the auditorium's muted light. "We all had those bracelets," she explained softly, "symbols of our friendship. Amanda's idea, she wanted something special for us." Sarah noted how quickly Amy had shifted credit toward Amanda, a subtle deflection. "You were all close then?" Amy smiled, faintly wistful, yet strangely guarded. "Very. Cheerleading bonded us. It felt like family, especially for Amanda and me. She trusted me and I trusted her." Sarah tilted her head slightly, careful curiosity coloring her voice. "Yet Amanda was sidelined with an injury right before the girls disappeared. Must have been difficult for her watching from the sidelines." Amy paused briefly, something flickering behind her eyes, a brief flash of hidden emotion quickly masked by practiced composure. "Amanda struggled. She was used to being in the spotlight. Watching the others excel without her, it hurt." Sarah leaned forward slightly, voice lowering gently, coaxingly. "Did you ever feel overshadowed, Amy? Cheerleading's competitive. Friendships can be complicated." Amy's expression softened, sadness or perhaps regret clouding her features. "Maybe sometimes," she admitted quietly, eyes lowered. "But never enough to resent anyone. They were my friends." Sarah considered her words subtly, noting how carefully Amy chose them, her thoughtful precision and quiet certainty. It struck her suddenly, Amy's detailed memory, her encyclopedic recall of events and emotions long past, unusually vivid and sharp for someone merely peripheral to suspicion. "You have a remarkable memory," Sarah observed softly, allowing just a hint of admiration to seep into her voice. Amy glanced upward slowly, meeting Sarah's gaze directly, her eyes momentarily intense, almost piercing. "When you lose people you care about," she murmured, "you cling tightly to every detail. It's all you have left." Sarah held her gaze, sensing something deeper hidden beneath Amy's carefully crafted vulnerability, yet unable to fully grasp its nature. Amy broke the connection first, standing slowly, her movements graceful yet guarded. "I hope you find answers, Detective," Amy whispered softly, stepping away into shadows, leaving Sarah alone with lingering doubts, quietly haunted by the subtle echoes of friendship that felt inexplicably sinister beneath Amy Carter's gentle surface. In the days following her unsettling conversation with Amy Carter, Sarah Mills revisited her investigation into Coach Ben Palmer. Unanswered questions had accumulated around him over the years, festering quietly beneath the surface, impossible to entirely dismiss. She found herself back in Ben's cramped office at Grant High, sifting methodically through dusty files and faded photographs. The room smelled faintly of leather and aged paper sunlight struggling through grimy blinds, casting uneven stripes across cluttered surfaces. Her fingers brushed over old yearbooks, practice schedules, grade sheets, mundane details of high school life that now seemed darkly significant. Ben had remained a shadowy presence, perpetually marked by whispered accusations, though never formally charged. Flipping through a worn notebook, Sarah paused at a neatly penned entry dated shortly before the disappearance. "Discuss routine privately with Jessica and Ashley after practice." Sarah's pulse quickened momentarily, private meetings, exactly the sort of behavior that fueled suspicion. But as she read further, the notes detailed only standard cheerleading routines, carefully documented and professional. A creak at the doorway startled her. She turned sharply. Ben stood quietly at the threshold, visibly aged, worn by years of suspicion and scrutiny. His gaze traveled wearily over the scattered documents before settling heavily on Sarah. "Still looking for answers, detective?" he asked quietly, voice tinged with resignation. Sarah straightened, regarding him cautiously. "This case has haunted a lot of us, Ben, including you." He nodded slowly, eyes shadowed by fatigue. "They were my team, my responsibility. Not a day passes without wondering if I missed something important." She considered him carefully. No defiance, no anger, only quiet remorse reflected in his posture. "The girls trusted you." Ben exhaled softly, shoulders slumping slightly. "I thought they did, but trust is complicated. You never truly know what someone hides beneath the surface." "Did you know Amy Carter well?" Sarah asked abruptly, watching his reaction intently. Ben's expression softened slightly, a faint confusion crossing his features. "Amy, quiet girl, polite. Always seemed supportive of the others, especially Amanda." Sarah absorbed his words thoughtfully, recognizing again the careful anonymity that consistently described Amy. "Did she ever stand out to you behavior-wise? Anything unusual?" Ben hesitated, clearly struggling with the memory. "She was always around. At every practice, even when she wasn't participating. Quietly helping, watching carefully from the sidelines. I assumed it was loyalty to Amanda." Sarah's mind flickered briefly to the tunnel beneath the stadium, the hidden uniforms, Amanda's lingering perfume, the bracelet labeled AC. Amy Carter's unobtrusive presence threading silently through each clue. Ben sighed deeply, breaking her reverie. "I've lived under suspicion for 5 years. Maybe I deserve it. But whatever mistakes I've made, I never hurt those girls." Sarah studied him carefully, sensing genuine sincerity beneath his weariness. Coach Ben's shadows, though dark and enduring, began fading under scrutiny, suspicion reluctantly yielding to reason. As she left his office, Sarah carried lingering doubts, yet one certainty crystallized sharply within her thoughts. Ben Palmer was not the monster she'd imagined. That revelation brought little comfort, only deeper anxiety, for it meant evil lurked elsewhere, closer and quieter, hidden behind masks of innocence she had yet to fully unmask. Rain fell softly against Grant High's empty stadium, drizzling a cold, relentless patter onto the faded bleachers. Sarah Mills stood again at the mouth of the maintenance tunnel, her flashlight cutting a narrow beam into the pitch-black darkness. The scent of wet earth mingled with the faint lingering traces of Stan's chemicals, provoking memories of uneasy suspicion. She inhaled slowly, steeling herself against the creeping sense of dread that clung stubbornly to the space. She moved forward cautiously, the tunnel walls pressing close, dampness seeping steadily through cracked concrete. Her footsteps echoed hollowly, disturbing the stillness, each sound amplified as if the passage itself resented her intrusion. As she moved deeper, her flashlight illuminated scrawled graffiti, faded chalk marks, childish sketches, long-abandoned secrets hidden within forgotten shadows. A soft rustle echoed behind her, and she turned sharply, heart racing. Amy Carter stood quietly, her presence startlingly unexpected in the confined darkness. "Amy," Sarah said evenly, masking her unease. "What are you doing here?" Amy's face appeared pale and ghostly beneath the flashlight's glare, eyes wide and solemn. "I saw you enter the tunnel. I thought I might help. I know these passages pretty well." Sarah paused, the casual admission striking her oddly. "You've been down here before," Amy nodded gently. Stepping closer, voice hushed yet clear. "A few times. Amanda showed me once, said it was a quiet place to think. I came back sometimes after she stopped coming." Sarah considered this carefully, sensing a subtle discordance beneath Amy's innocent explanation. "Amanda knew about this place." Amy hesitated briefly, eyes shifting away momentarily. "She found it first, but she was afraid Coach Ben or Stan might discover she'd been here, so she stopped coming." Sarah noticed Amy's careful deflection again toward others, subtly distancing herself. Yet Amy moved with unsettling familiarity through the tunnel, stepping around hidden obstacles, navigating effortlessly. Her quiet confidence, so incongruous with her gentle demeanor, prickled at Sarah's instincts. "Have you ever seen anything down here before today? Uniforms, personal items?" Sarah pressed gently, watching Amy's expression closely. Amy stopped abruptly, turning slowly to face Sarah, eyes carefully guarded. "No, never," she murmured softly. "I wouldn't have hidden that from you." Yet something about the careful calm of Amy's voice unsettled Sarah, a quiet certainty threaded beneath practiced vulnerability. Sarah's flashlight moved inadvertently across Amy's wrist, catching briefly on another delicate bracelet, engraved silver, gleaming faintly identical to those already discovered. Amy caught her gaze, gently touching the bracelet self-consciously. "Amanda gave it to me," she explained quietly. "I still wear it to remember." Sarah studied her expression carefully, the subtle tension around Amy's mouth, the fleeting shadow passing swiftly behind her eyes. Amy's quiet, unobtrusive presence, her subtle familiarity with hidden spaces, the innocent explanations all combined uneasily within Sarah's thoughts, gently but persistently tugging her suspicions toward the quiet girl who had so easily slipped beneath scrutiny. As they emerged from the tunnel back into fading daylight, Sarah watched Amy carefully walk away across the wet grass, rain clinging to her delicate frame. A quiet certainty grew steadily within Sarah, unsettling yet undeniable. Hidden passageways held secrets, yes. But Amy Carter herself had become a secret Sarah desperately needed to unravel. Late evening settled heavily over Grantville, cloaking the town in a thick blanket of fog. Sarah sat quietly in her small home office, surrounded by boxes of evidence documents, photographs, the remnants of a case she refused to let rest. Her eyes returned repeatedly to the delicate silver bracelet engraved with AC, its significance no longer ambiguous. Her phone buzzed gently, interrupting her reverie. Amanda Collins's voice trembled on the other end, hesitant yet insistent. "Detective Mills, I need to talk." Sarah met Amanda half an hour later in a deserted diner, neon signs flickering weakly through dirty windows. Amanda looked fragile beneath harsh fluorescent lighting, shadows deepening the lines of anxiety etched on her face. "I haven't been completely honest," Amanda confessed quietly, fingers nervously twisting her bracelet. "About Amy, about all of us." Sarah listened patiently, studying Amanda's features carefully. "Go on." Amanda hesitated, her voice lowered almost to a whisper. "We fought the day I got injured. Amy and I. It was petty, stupid jealousy over routine's attention from Coach Ben. Amy wanted to be noticed. She resented us, resented me." Amanda paused, visibly shaken. "I didn't think much of it then, but afterward I started noticing things. Amy was always watching us, copying routines privately, memorizing every step, every gesture. She knew us better than we knew ourselves. It scared me." Sarah's pulse quickened, recognizing the truth within Amanda's words. "Why didn't you say anything earlier?" Amanda's eyes filled with tears, voice trembling. "Amy was my best friend. I trusted her. Even after everything, I didn't want to believe it." Sarah reached into her pocket, gently laying the silver bracelet on the table. Amanda's eyes widened in immediate recognition. "We found this in the tunnel beneath the stadium. Amy was with me when I found it. She said you'd shown her the tunnel first." Amanda shook her head sharply, panic rising in her voice. No, that's not true. I never showed Amy that tunnel. I only mentioned it to her once after practice when I discovered it accidentally, but she seemed uninterested, indifferent." Sarah felt a chill slither down her spine, realizing how skillfully Amy had concealed her deception, quietly manipulating trust to mask sinister motives. Amy knew exactly where everything was hidden. She knew details only someone deeply involved could know. Amanda stared silently, realization washing over her features. "All these years I blamed Coach Ben Stan, even myself, but never Amy. How could we have missed it?" Sarah's jaw tightened, her voice quiet and firm. "Because betrayal hides best behind trust." Outside, rain began again, softly tapping rhythmically against the diner windows. Amanda's gaze fell to her bracelet, fingers clutching it tightly, her voice barely audible. "Amy destroyed our lives quietly, secretly, and we never saw it coming." As Sarah rose to leave, her thoughts churned heavily. Amy Carter had fooled them all, concealed by innocence, shielded by friendship. The most dangerous betrayal had come from within, from someone they'd trusted implicitly. Amy's mask had finally slipped, revealing a chilling truth that Sarah now had to confront, directly knowing the quiet, trusted confidant had become the greatest threat of all. In the hushed darkness, Sarah Mills parked her car down the street from Amy Carter's modest house, rain trickling quietly over the windshield. The house stood still and silent, a picture of suburban normalcy hiding sinister truths within its walls. Sarah approached slowly, each footstep heavy with reluctant anticipation. The door opened quietly beneath her gentle knock, revealing Amy's calm, composed expression. She seemed unsurprised, almost expectant. "Detective Mills," she greeted softly, stepping back to allow Sarah entry. "I wondered how long it would take." Inside, Amy's home felt disturbingly normal: soft furniture, muted colors, family photographs arranged carefully. Yet beneath the careful presentation lurked subtle signs Sarah now recognized clearly. Photographs of cheerleading routines, meticulously framed collections of team memorabilia, obsessively organized trophies, ribbons, pompoms, like quiet trophies of a life never truly lived. "I spoke with Amanda," Sarah began, evenly watching Amy closely. "She told me everything." Amy's expression barely shifted, only the faintest tightening around her eyes. "Amanda always had trouble keeping secrets," she murmured gently, a chilling calm resonating through her voice. Sarah stepped further inside, noticing open journals lying deliberately on a nearby table. Pages filled obsessively detailed cheerleading diagrams, meticulous notes documenting teammates' routines, their strengths, weaknesses, and careful annotations highlighting personal resentments. "Why, Amy?" Sarah questioned softly, glancing upward from the pages, allowing a careful gentleness into her voice, coaxing honesty from Amy's rigid composure. Amy turned slowly, facing Sarah directly, her eyes cold yet burning intensely. "Because they had everything. Attention, praise, talent. While I faded quietly into the background, forgotten, invisible. Amanda pretended we were equals, but she always knew she was better until the injury forced her to watch helpless from the sidelines." Amy's voice dropped lower, bitterness seeping quietly through controlled words. "For once, Amanda understood how it felt to watch others have what she couldn't. But still, no one noticed me. So I took control. I showed them I could matter." Sarah's heart tightened painfully, Amy's quiet confession unraveling dark threads of envy and loneliness twisted into calculated cruelty. "You lured them into the tunnel." Amy nodded slowly, unflinching. "They trusted me. One by one, I brought them there, promising secret special routines. They followed willingly, never suspecting anything until it was far too late." Sarah felt sickened, yet forced herself to remain steady. "And Amanda?" Amy smiled, faintly cold satisfaction behind her gentle expression. "I spared Amanda, watching her grieve live with guilt, suspicion that was far sweeter punishment. She'd spend forever wondering if she'd failed them somehow." Sarah took a slow breath, gripping tightly to her composure. "You almost got away with it." Amy met Sarah's gaze unwaveringly, quiet defiance glittering in her eyes. "I did, detective. For 5 years I fooled everyone, even you." In the silence that followed, Sarah felt the weight of Amy's words, the chilling realization of betrayal concealed masterfully behind innocence. The careful facade Amy had built over years finally crumbled, revealing the true face of quiet evil, the unassuming villain hidden safely in plain sight, trusted implicitly, overlooked completely until now. In the pale morning that followed, Sarah Mills stood silently outside Grant High Stadium, watching as police officers carefully secured the hidden maintenance tunnel beneath layers of yellow crime scene tape. News vans gathered, reporters eagerly dissecting every lurid detail Sarah herself wished she could forget. Amy Carter had been quietly led away hours earlier, face blank, devoid of remorse. Her confession echoed relentlessly in Sarah's mind, a haunting testament to jealousy's quiet, destructive power. 5 years of suspicion had pointed elsewhere, yet the truth lay patiently hidden beneath kindness and trust. Amanda Collins approached Sarah slowly, her expression weary eyes hollowed by grief and disbelief. She stood silently beside Sarah, gazing at the stadium that had once represented youthful dreams, now forever shadowed by betrayal. "I thought I knew her," Amanda whispered hoarsely, voice catching painfully. "We all thought we knew each other." Sarah glanced toward Amanda, gently sensing the heavy burden of guilt she carried. "Betrayal thrives on trust," Sarah murmured quietly. "Amy counted on it." Amanda's gaze fell, voice cracking softly. "Could I have stopped it? Seen it coming?" Sarah shook her head slowly, compassion coloring her voice. "Amy hid everything behind kindness, friendship. You trusted her. We all did." Amanda stood silently, tears streaming softly down her cheeks, mourning friendships, irreparably shattered, innocence, irrevocably lost. As police packed evidence into waiting vehicles, Sarah felt a gentle tug on her sleeve. Carl, the groundskeeper, stood awkwardly, his eyes troubled. "Will Grantville ever move past this?" Sarah exhaled slowly, considering carefully. "It'll take time. Evil hides easily behind familiar faces, Carl. Trust takes longer to rebuild." Carl nodded gravely, walking away quietly into the gathering crowd, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. She turned back toward Amanda, gently placing a reassuring hand on the young woman's shoulder. As they stood there together, Sarah reflected on how carefully Amy had concealed herself, crafting an image of gentle innocence, quiet empathy, masking cold calculation. Sarah's belief in humanity and trust had been challenged profoundly, yet not entirely shattered. There was hope still, even amidst betrayal, in Amanda's quiet courage, in Carl's honest confusion, in Grantville's slow, painful healing. Sarah squeezed Amanda's hand gently. "We'll move forward, Amanda, slowly. Together." Amanda drew a shaky breath, nodding softly. "I'm afraid of trusting again." Sarah offered a quiet, reassuring smile. "Trust cautiously, but trust again." They stood in silence, watching as morning sunlight broke gently over Grantville, chasing away lingering shadows, illuminating possibilities for renewal amidst ruin. As they stepped forward toward uncertain futures, Sarah knew the scars would remain quietly, marking lessons painfully learned that beneath innocence, darkness could flourish unseen. Yet amid such quiet horrors, hope endured, stubbornly compelling them forward toward healing, one careful, determined step at a time.
Thank you for listening to Brody's Stories. Until we meet again.